Tameside Radio Sports Talk with Betfred. Visit your local Betfred shop today for a variety of great offers and check out our app for great features like Pick Your Punt Builder. Whenever you bet, Betfred. 18 plus, begambleaware.org.
Hello and welcome. This is Sports Talk with me, Lewis Connell. And as always, I'm joined by Peter Spencer from Betfred. How are you doing today, Peter?
Yeah, great. Thanks very much.
Well, we'll start with the Betfred Super League. It's Hull KR versus Lee tonight in the Eliminator, and tomorrow it is Saints versus Warrington.
Yeah, it's all coming to the business end of the season now. We've got these two fantastic Eliminator games. To win the grand final, which obviously they're both aiming for, that's Old Trafford on the 14th of October. We have Wigan, the favourites now, 7-4 with Betfred. Saints and Catalans both 9-4. Hull KR 14-1 to win the trophy outright. Lee 16-1, and Warrington, the topsy-turvy team, they're 25-1, the huge outsiders. If you analyse it, Warrington have basically got to go to St Helens on Saturday lunchtime, win there, and then they've got a semi-final in France against Catalans. So it may well be too much for that team. Whereas the Saints, who of course are the holders 4 times on the run, are looking for their 5th success. They play against Warrington, as I say, on Saturday lunchtime, and I've got an half-decent record against Catalans. So they're going the long way around it. So we think the final will be basically between Wigan, who came top of the Betfred Super League table and the holders of the Shield, against either Saints or Catalans. That's what the odds are indicating. But you never really know, and you can't rule out Lee either, because they came from nowhere to win the Challenge Cup and are having a decent season. So for tonight's game, Hull KR against Lee. Hull are the favourites because they're at home, and Josh Charnley is 7-1 to score the first try of the game. He's had a fantastic season, having left Warrington, where he didn't do so well last year, joined Lee. His career's been given a huge shot in the arm, and he's now the second highest try scorer in the competition. He's 7-1 to score first for Lee at Hull KR tonight, and then Saints against Warrington on Saturday. Well, Saints are massive favourites to win that game, 1-4. Warrington 16-5. Tommy Makinson is 11-2 to score first, and probably the best player in the whole competition, Jack Wellesby, he's 9-1 to score first. Matthew Ashton, he's 10-1 to score the first try.
You mentioned Lee there, what a season they've had, and you mentioned, they've done that quite a lot this year, giving players that other teams might not have maybe fancied the opportunity, and they've shown what they can do, haven't they? Yeah,
breath of fresh air, effectively. All the leopard's skin that the owner wears from time to time, and also how they've incorporated that into the kit. Just what Super League needs. Characters, something a bit different. They put a show on for their home games as well. And it's a shame, really, it's away this game tonight, because if it had been at home, you can rest assured they would have really, really gone to town in this Eliminator game.
Definitely. You mentioned St Helens and Catalans. They're both on the same odds at Betfred to lift the trophy, but you would have expected St Helens to be there, but maybe not Catalans. They've surprised a few people this season.
Yeah, they've always got it in the locker with Tompkins in the team, although he could be injured for this game. They have some fantastic players, and they've attracted some of the greatest talents from rugby league to France, particularly Australians who fancy a couple of seasons in France. And so they're always a team to be reckoned with. And at home, they have a fantastic fan base. It's just that when they do travel, not so many fans come over to watch them.
Well, we'll move on to a bit of football now. The Carabao Cup took place this week. United beat Palace 3-0, quite comfortable for them in the end. Were you impressed with that performance?
Yeah, it was. I thought they did well there. I thought that Palace weren't really up for it, but it was a good performance. It's 2 wins on the run now for United. It seemed like they could possibly have turned the corner. Be interesting to see what happens this weekend against the same team.
Yeah, I think the balance of the midfield in particular was very impressive. Mason Mount looked sharp coming back in, and Amrabat looked quite impressive as well. New signing.
Yeah, I think Mason Mount has gone his performance a little bit under the radar, but he's obviously a class act. And once he gets his feet under the table at United, I think he's going to be play well, and he'll do well for United. He looks like a good signing. Steady, I suppose, in terms of how many goals he gets, but an England international of his quality is going to get himself in that United team at the moment. Still got huge disappointments up front. I mean, Rashford's got to get his act together quickly. We've got problems at United with the wingers, and for various reasons. As for Højlund, he's got to do a lot more for me. He runs around a lot and makes himself a nuisance, but he's only got 1 goal so far, and that was a bit of scabby effort against Bayern Munich.
Yeah, it was. And interestingly, Casemiro is United's top scorer this season. I think he's got 5 now, is it? Obviously got two against Bayern, and he's got 1 again, so he's becoming quite a goal threat from quite an unexpected source, really.
Yeah, that basically says it all. What I'm saying about the strike force.
Well,
they
definitely
really have got to up the game.
And Hannibal Mejbri played again. He seems to be relishing life at United now, after looking like he was going to leave in the summer, and he seems to be taking his chance, doesn't he? Yeah,
he's full of energy, that young man. I think he's going to be a crowd favourite. He's not scared of a tackle either, and I like him. I think he's going to be another example of why United should look to the academy for the players, because they're the ones who've got the heart in the club.
Definitely. And you mentioned Rashford there. There's a lot of people on social media after Garnacho's performance saying, it'd be harsh to drop him with Rashford coming straight back in. What's your sort of view on that? Would you bring Rashford back in for the Palace game on Saturday?
Yeah, well, I would effectively, because Rashford's an excellent player, just out of form at the moment. He's got to work out a good relationship with Højlund. I think that's a work in progress. I've been looking at the odds here for United against Palace. They're 8-15 to win there. Palace 5-1, and Rashford's the favourite to score first. He's 4-1 with Betfred to score the first goal at Old Trafford for this second game against Palace. Højlund 9-2, Martial 5-1, and Bruno is 6-1.
And as you say, obviously Palace didn't quite play the best team against them in the Carabao Cup, but I think they'll bring the likes of Eze back in, so I think it will be a sort of more closer game in the league.
Yeah, but I think United will make changes too, so that'll balance that out. I can only see another United victory at the moment, and to win the Premier League outright, I notice United's odds have come in from 50-1 to 40-1, so they're still amongst the outsiders. City, out and out favourites. I mean, who's going to come second to City at the moment? City are 2-5 to win the Premier League outright with Betfred. Liverpool 13-2. They're sneaking up on the blind side again. Arsenal 15-2. Tottenham 22-1 with Betfred. Brighton 28-1 ahead of United, and Newcastle, after they absolutely hammered Sheffield United, they've been caught in as well. They're 40-1, the same price as Manchester United. Top 4 finish, well, we think it'll be City, Liverpool, Arsenal. They're all odds on. Then Newcastle 7-4, Manchester United 5-2. Don't rule out Aston Villa either. They're 6-1 shots.
And obviously next up in the Carabao Cup for United is Newcastle. They've got another home draw. I think it's 12 in a row now in all competitions, so that's quite a crazy stat. And obviously they knocked out the title favourites City on Wednesday. What did you make of that game?
Well, I thought Guardiola basically got it wrong. He started with a team that couldn't score. They kept possession all through the first half. They were looking for like the perfect goal. It never came. And then second half, Howe must have had a real blast at his team. And they came out all guns blazing. They made 2 great substitutions as opposed to City making none. And they just went out City. And you could see what was going to happen there. It was a classic game of 2 halves. And I think that basically Guardiola wants to hold his hands up and say, well, I got that one wrong tactically because they're now out of the Carabao Cup. And when he started berating the referee, people would just bemused by that because the referee had a blinding game.
Yeah.
No mistakes at all. He didn't even have any controversial decisions to make. So, he was having a go at him. Maybe he thought that Newcastle were tackling a little bit too hard.
Yeah.
I can only think it was that. And there's nothing else that he could have been having a go at. But Newcastle fully deserved that, and City supporters need to hold their hands up and say, well, fair dues.
Definitely.
Why didn't bring Haaland on in the second half? That bemused me as well. If they really wanted to win that game, that's what would have been a logical thing to do. Well,
I was just going to say that, actually. That kind of speaks volumes, when you're trailing in the game. You've got the top scorer from last year, and you can't even give him 10 minutes. It's probably a case of, maybe Guardiola wasn't actually that bothered about staying in the competition with all the sort of fixture congestion that comes with.
Well, you'd think that, but then why did he ever go at the referee? Why did he get overexcited? Why did he started bawling at the referee at the end of the game if he wasn't bothered? I just think he's such a complex character, and really City as a club need to hold hands up and say they were beaten on the day. And he needs to think, well, I got that one wrong. It's allowed, you aren't allowed to make mistakes. As my mum used to always say, very boring to win every week.
Yeah.
You can't win every single game.
No.
And it's great that they're playing United now. United are now the new favourites for that, as it happens.
Definitely. And I've seen Jack Grealish getting quite a lot of stick on social media. There's been a lot of clips going around of him just sort of passing the ball sideways. Obviously, Jeremy Doku's come in his first couple of games. He's looked lively. He's been running at people. Do you think people are being a bit harsh on Grealish, saying that he should be sort of dropped, or do you think it's justified?
I think he's a strange sort of player, Grealish. He sort of gets the ball in a great attacking position, then dilly-dallies around with it for a bit and then plays it inside. He wants to get past that full-back and then whip it across. That's the idea of wing play. But you don't know what he's been told by the manager. Maybe he wants him to hold it up like that. But he didn't have a great performance against Newcastle. They were happy to let him hold the ball while they got back in position. And that was a major factor in why City didn't score when they totally dominated that first half.
And it'll be interesting to see if he retains his place in the team when they play at the weekend away at Wolves. They'll be looking for 7 wins out of 7.
Yeah, well, I don't think he will, to be honest. I think they'll change it again. At the very least, he didn't look completely back overcoming his injury, and that might be why he felt he didn't have the pace to get past the fullback at St James's Park. City are the 11-2 favourites, along with Newcastle, on our new Hot Shots coupon. This is where you can pick the highest scoring team in the Premier League fixtures during the weekend. Of course, last time it was Newcastle who won. We talked about that before. 500 Newcastle fans were celebrating on the back of 9-1, on the back of the trouncing of Sheffield United. This week, 11-2 favourites with City and Newcastle. Arsenal 8-1, and for the highest scoring match, well, that is good. We've got Spurs and Liverpool as the favourite in that coupon. 5-1 to produce the most goals. That's Spurs against Liverpool. Wolves and City's 13-2. And then Newcastle and Burnley. I mean, that potentially is the one to get on for that, on that coupon, because Burnley haven't got the greatest defence. And Newcastle have proved they can score from virtually everywhere in the pitch, as against Sheffield United, when all 8 goals were scored by different players. You wonder whether, if they'd have got a penalty, whether Pope would have taken to really ram home the point. United and Palace, they're 10-1 to produce the most goals in this weekend's fixtures. So, I mean, that is an interesting coupon. That it really is one to think about, because it's not just necessarily who's going to score the most, but who's got the worst defence. So you can study that as well.
Definitely, that's a great bet to get involved with. So what are the odds looking like for that Manchester City versus Wolves game?
Well, we've got Haaland, not surprisingly, 2-1 to score the first goal. Alvarez 9-2. Foden is 7-1. Grealish, if he plays, 9-1. And City, huge odds-on favourites to go on and win that game. They're 3-10 to win, pick up all 3 points. Wolves 8-1.
But we'll move on now to the Rugby Union World Cup. England aren't back in action until next Saturday, and they'll be playing Tonga.
Yeah, well, in the Rugby Union World Cup, it's a break for England, and South Africa are the favourites now, 11-4, followed by Ireland at 3-1, and Betfred have France at 10-3. New Zealand 4-1 shots. England, who've already qualified for the quarterfinals because of results elsewhere, notably Japan. So they're 11-1 to go on and win the World Cup outright. Wales 22-1.
And for those that are interested in golf, it's obviously the Ryder Cup this weekend as well. Will you be watching any of that?
Yeah, I'll be tuning in, but I've got a lot of other things going on. It dominates affairs, doesn't it, this weekend?
Definitely. So get your bets on for the grand final of the Super League ahead of the games tonight and tomorrow. And if you do fancy a bet, you can bet online, on the app, or in Betfred stores. And Peter, we'll see you at the same time next week.
No problem, sir.
Thank you.
Tameside Radio Sports Talk with Betfred. Visit your local Betfred shop today for a variety of great offers, and check out our app for great features like Pick Your Punts Builder. Whenever you bet, Betfred. 18+, begambleaware.org.